What I'm about to tell you is not just a story, it's my life, my turning point, and the moment everything I thought I knew was stripped away and rebuilt from the ground up. I was 28 years old, living in Washington. I am a social media influencer and I love what I was doing. I thought I was fulfilled. But I didn't realize that sometimes what looks like having it all can actually hide the emptiest places of the heart. Before I go on, I'd love to hear from you. If you've ever had a moment that made you rethink everything, whether a dream, a near-death experience, or even a quiet moment that shook your soul, please share it in the comments. And if this kind of story touches you, subscribe so we can keep walking this journey together. It was a normal day, or so I thought. I woke up early, laced my running shoes, and went for my usual jog. I had no idea that within minutes, my life would be hanging by a thread. It started as a sharp pressure in my chest, then a wave of heat that made my vision blur. I tried to slow down, thinking maybe I had pushed myself too hard, but the world around me dimmed. The last thing I remember seeing was the pavement rushing toward my face before everything went black. When I opened my eyes, I wasn't on the street anymore. I wasn't even in my body. There was no sound, no weight, no air, just a stillness that felt both strange and peaceful. I could see my life in front of me like I was standing outside of time, watching moments I'd lived without ever thinking twice about them. I saw faces, people I had inspired, people who had drawn courage from me, but alongside that, I saw something deeper. I began to understand that while I had encouraged many to live boldly in their identity, I had never pointed them toward the one who had given me life in the first place. It was like a veil was being lifted, and I could suddenly see the invisible threads of my choices, stretching out far beyond what I had ever imagined. And then I became aware that I was not alone. There was a presence so overwhelming, so radiant, that my heart knew before my mind could process. He was light, pure, consuming light, and yet I could feel his eyes on me, looking straight through to the deepest parts of my soul. He didn't need to ask me questions. He revealed to me things I had hidden even from myself. I knew, without him saying it, that I was standing before truth itself. The light around me wasn't just something I saw, it was something I felt in every part of my being. It wasn't cold or harsh, but it wasn't soft in a way that let me hide either. It was the kind of light that left no shadow, the kind that made every hidden thing known. And yet, I didn't feel condemned. I felt exposed, yes, but also deeply loved. Loved in a way I had never known was possible. It was like every love I had ever felt in my life. Every hug, every word of encouragement, every tear wiped away, was just a tiny reflection of what was pouring over me in that moment. In that presence, my achievements meant nothing. My followers, my career, my confidence, even my struggles, they all faded away like dust in sunlight. He showed me my life like a story being read aloud, but not the version I would post online. This was the raw, unfiltered truth. I saw moments when I had chosen my own comfort over someone else's need. Times when I had stayed silent instead of speaking the truth, because I didn't want to lose people's approval. And I saw the ripple effects, not just in the lives of people I knew, but in people they knew and people beyond them. It was like throwing a stone in a pond and watching the waves stretch endlessly outward. He revealed to me that I had been given a voice, a platform, and influence for a reason far greater than myself. But I had used them mostly to build my own name. I wasn't being shown this to crush me, but to awaken me. There was no anger in his eyes, only a deep, aching sorrow mixed with an unshakable hope, as if he could see not just what I had done, but also what I was meant to become. And then everything around me shifted. The light faded just enough for me to see where I stood, or maybe it's better to say where I was being shown to stand. It looked like a courtroom, but not one from this world. There were no wooden benches, no lawyers, no jury. Yet I knew without being told that this was the place where truth could not be twisted. Every detail of my life was laid bare before me, not for humiliation, but for clarity. I could see every choice, every word, every silence. Some of them glowed with beauty and selflessness. Others felt heavy, as though they carried an eternal weight I had never understood until now. In that place, I was shown something I will never forget. Beyond the courtroom, like a horizon stretching forever, I saw countless souls, people wandering in a vast darkness, searching, reaching, but never finding. It broke me in a way I can't describe. And I understood, without it being spoken, that they weren't there because of who they were or where they came from, but because they had turned away from the truth that could have set them free. My heart ached as I realized I had been given opportunities, so many, to point people toward that truth. Opportunities one had let slip by because I didn't want to offend, because I was afraid of losing my comfort, because I told myself it wasn't my place. And yet here, standing in this eternal reality, I knew those moments had been the very purpose of my life. The presence didn't accuse me. He didn't have to. Just being before him, in that place where everything was pure truth, was enough to make me see myself as I truly was, and to realize how desperately I needed his mercy. The scene before me became sharper, as if the edges of eternity were pressing in closer. The presence, this overwhelming light I knew to be Jesus, stood before me not as the quiet, soft figure many imagine, but as living fire and radiant power. And yet, every ounce of that power was saturated with love so deep it almost hurt to feel it. My soul was caught between awe and surrender. Then, without words, he showed me something personal, more personal than anything I'd ever faced. It wasn't just a replay of my life, it was the meaning of my life. It was as if he was peeling back the layers of every decision I had made, revealing the why behind them. I saw that so much of what I had done, even the good things, had been shaped by my desire to be seen, to be celebrated, to prove that I was enough. And he revealed to me that chasing that kind of validation was like trying to drink from a well that could never satisfy. The vision shifted again, and now I was looking at two paths stretching out before me. They weren't made of stone or wood, they were made of reality itself, like the essence of what my choices would lead to. One path looked bright, glittering, and familiar. I knew instinctively that it represented the life I had been living. The career, the influence, the applause, the comfort. But as I looked closer, that brightness was only on the surface. Beneath it, I saw emptiness, like a hollow shell. And I was made to understand that if I returned to that life unchanged, it would end in eternal separation from the one standing before me. The other path was different. At first glance, it looked hard. The ground was rough, the way was narrow, and the air around it felt heavy with challenges. I could sense rejection, loss, and sacrifice along that road. But as I kept looking, I noticed something. The light from the presence stretched fully down that path. It wasn't the glitter of surface success. It was steady, unshakable light, the kind that could guide you even in the darkest night. And deep within me, I understood. This was the path of surrender, the path of laying down everything I had clung to, so that I could finally walk in his purpose for me. My chest tightened as the weight of the decision hit me. It wasn't like choosing between two lifestyles, it was choosing between two destinies. One path meant keeping what I thought was me, but losing the only thing that could truly give me life. The other meant letting go of the life I had built and trusting him to give me something better, not better in the worldly sense, but better in the eternal sense. It was here that I felt the full reality of free will. He didn't force me. There was no command, no demand. He simply stood there, letting me see the truth, letting me feel the pull of each road. And yet, the love in his gaze made the choice clear. I knew that to walk away from him now would be to walk away from the very reason I had been created. I can't fully describe what it felt like to surrender in that moment. It wasn't a dramatic gesture. It was more like my soul finally collapsing into the arms it was made for. I let go. I let go of my reputation, my status, my comfort, my plans. I let go of my fear of rejection. And in that letting go, I felt something I had never felt before. True freedom. It was then that he revealed to me, not in words but in a deep knowing, that following him would cost me everything I thought I needed, but would give me everything I had truly been searching for all along. It wouldn't be easy. People would misunderstand me. I would lose things I had spent years building. But I would walk with him. And that would be enough. As soon as I made that choice in my heart, the courtroom faded. The darkness in the distance grew dim, and the light of his presence became all I could see. I felt myself being pulled back, almost like I was being carried, not backward into my old life, but forward into a life that would never be the same. The light began to fade, not because it was leaving me, but because I was being sent back. I didn't want to go. Every part of me longed to stay in that presence, in that love that felt more like home than anything I had ever known. But there was an unshakable knowing in my spirit that my time there wasn't over forever, only for now. I was being sent back with a purpose. The return was not gentle. One moment I was surrounded by peace. The next I was slammed into the heaviness of my body. Pain rushed in first, the sharp ache in my chest, the burn in my lungs, the cold sting of the pavement beneath me. Voices were shouting. Hands were pressing against me. I could hear someone crying out my name. Later, I would learn that I had been clinically dead for 12 minutes. 12 minutes without a heartbeat. 12 minutes where the doctor should have been preparing to tell my family the worst. But somehow, I had come back. In the days that followed, I lay in a hospital bed with monitors beeping steadily around me. People came to visit. They told me how lucky I was, how close I had come, how I should take it easy for a while. They didn't know, and I couldn't yet find the words to tell them, that lucky had nothing to do with it. I had been given a choice, and I had chosen the narrow road. But as my strength returned and the hospital days faded into ordinary life, the cost began to show itself. The first thing I noticed was how different my conversations became. I couldn't talk about the same things the same way anymore. The jokes I used to make, the stories I used to tell, the casual way I used to brush past deeper topics. It all felt hollow. People noticed. Some thought I was just shaken from my heart attack and would bounce back to my old self. Others looked at me with a quiet suspicion, as if they could sense that something in me had shifted in a way they didn't understand. Today I live with less in the world's eyes, but my soul has never been richer. I've traded applause for purpose, comfort for truth, and temporary satisfaction for eternal hope. I'm not perfect. I still stumble, still wrestle with doubts and fears. But I walk with the one whose light never leaves me, the one who gave me life twice. Once when I was born, and again when I was brought back after 12 minutes without breath. If there's anything I could say to you, it's this. Don't wait until your world stops to see what really matters. Life is fragile and eternity is real. Jesus isn't just an idea or a story. He is the living presence who knows you completely and loves you enough to call you out of the life you've settled for into the life you were made for. My friend, if this story has touched you, I'd love for you to stay connected. Subscribe so we can keep sharing these moments together, and leave a comment if you've ever had an experience, or even a quiet whisper in your heart, that made you see life differently. You never know, your story might be the light someone else is waiting for.